Manager, thank you so much for joining us today on Insight, and thank you for joining us. I'm Wendy Brokaw. We'll see you next time.
Today's guest, Boxing Day.
All right, good morning. We're here for our Marion County Board of Commissioners weekly meeting. It is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. It is 9 a.m. and we're here in the Senator hearing room, and we always start with a Pledge of Allegiance, so if you will join us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have Noni signed up for public comment.
Mr. Chair, if you would, I'd like to make a motion to add an item under consent on our agenda.
Yep.
I move to add an item under consent agenda for human resources to approve the recommendation to update the classification and adjust the pay grade upward for class code 273 Deputy Sheriff Treaty Parolee and Probation and 274 Deputy Sheriff Parolee and Probation.
All right, I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. And our first thing after public comment is a presentation on 2023 Volunteer Annual Report, and I see Sherry is here. Welcome, yes. Sherry.
Great. Yes, good morning. Hopefully that mic is good. Good morning, Chair Cameron, Commissioner Bethel. I am Sherry Lintner. I'm the Volunteer Services Coordinator here at Marion County, and I work in Human Resources. So I'm here today. I'm really in conjunction with National Volunteer Week, and as of last week when you signed the proclamation, it's Volunteer Week here in Marion County. So as usual, this is the time I come forward and present the annual report. So today I am here with the 2023 Volunteer Report, which covers the activities during the calendar year 2023 and offers a glimpse into the many contributions made by our volunteers. So you guys probably have a hard copy of the annual report, and there's hard copies on the table here today, and then later today it will be posted as a PDF on our website available to the public, and they can print it from there if they'd like. So I thought I'd just start with the numbers, which is what I usually like to do. I think they're pretty compelling. So in 2023, we had 1,363 volunteers that donated time to a program, division, or department. Collectively, they donated over nearly 60,000 hours of service. So volunteers really have an immeasurable impact on the county, not just on the community and the folks that we serve, but really on county staff as well. So while they are invaluable, we do assign a monetary value to our volunteer hours, and it's just one of the ways that we can demonstrate the benefits of hosting volunteers. So we use the independent sector's published rate, and the 2023 Oregon rate values each service hour at $32.37. So that's how we calculate the value for this report. So just going just a little bit deeper on the numbers. So 38 students completed their internship or practicum, which helps them to meet their academic and professional goals. We had 2 AmeriCorps Rare members who served with our economic development team in community services. 174 individuals volunteered as appointed members to an advisory board or committee, and we had 1,149 volunteers that then donated time to a existing program division or department. So one of the things I just wanted to mention today, because we often talk, I know I often talk about the value of volunteers to the county, to county staff, to our programs, to our ability to really leverage our resources. But I really wanted to point out the benefits to our volunteers. So the county is unique, I think, among many organizations that host volunteers, in that our volunteers are often building technical skills, knowledge, and experience, and in some cases they're working towards certifications or licensure, and it really truly does create a win-win situation. Okay, so just quickly, I'll touch on the interns, practicum students, and our rare members. So we've got, I wanted to share some pictures. These are not all of the interns and students that were with us this last year, but it's just a sprinkling, and I think it's great to kind of put some faces to the label of an intern. And then the rare member, so what they've been doing, they've been placed with the county for several years, and they work on the county's broadband initiative and really working towards that goal of improving access to reliable, affordable broadband throughout the county. So we had 2023 internship placements, and those students are coming from public health, counseling, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners, social work, criminal justice, and more. And then I'm just going to share very quickly a few highlights that are actually in the annual report. So public health, that is an area that we consistently place students, both undergrad and graduate students, and they work on a variety of projects. So this last year in 2023, for example, we had interns that were working on activities and events. They were developing educational material and then also working in strengthening our community partnerships. So in 2023, interns Kira and Ryan worked on, they worked with WIC, and they worked on the breastfeeding promotion campaign. And so for those of you who are not familiar, WIC is Women's, Infants, and Children's. And they worked on that for the program participants. They conducted initial research, and then they used their knowledge and their skills that they gained as students at Oregon State to develop and implement this campaign that really looked at what are the social, cultural, logistical, and other barriers to breastfeeding, and then they try to address that for the WIC participants. So another example of a public health internship would be working with the Farm Direct Nutrition Program, and that's a program that partners with local farmers to make sure that WIC participants have access to fresh, locally grown produce. So I can see we already have a lot of student activity in '24. It's pretty exciting, so I'm really looking forward to coming back next year and talking more about the interns and students that are placed here. So the other sort of bucket that I talk about are advisory boards. And in 2023, so we had 174 individuals that served. They donated 2,363 hours, and they served across 19 boards. So one, I always feel I need to comment on the reported hours for advisory boards. There is no doubt in my mind they underreport their hours. Primarily, those hours reflect time that they spend in meetings, and we know that they spend a lot of time between meetings, either reviewing materials or working on subcommittees. And then just to clarify for anybody in the audience that may not know, advisory board members serve in appointed positions. So they make a commitment to attend and actively participate on a board, a committee, or commission. And we are very fortunate. We have many advisory boards that serve multiple terms, and they really do bring an unmatched perspective and institutional knowledge to the table. And I will cite our budget committee. So our budget committee is 6 members in addition to our 3 commissioners. We have 3 citizen members. And if you look at their combined experience with the county's process, both the development and the approval process, it's about 49 years. So they bring a unique set of knowledge and perspective to the table. And when I say perspective, what I really mean is they bring the community's perspective to the table. So many of our advisory boards may have industry folks that sit on that board, but we also always want to have those at-large community members to bring their unique voice.
Sherry,
Yes.
who's that teacher in the middle picture up there that everybody's paying really, really close attention to?
Well,
Who's the presenter?
The teacher. It looks like they're getting taught something.
they were, and I must say, who knew? Sorry, Jane. I didn't know our legal counsel had such a great sense of humor, and she was great. I mean, she really broke the legalese stuff down for folks.
Even a hamburger flipper could figure it out.
Yeah, but it's important. I mean, it really is important because these folks are coming to the table and they are bound by public meetings and ethics laws and different things. So we appreciate that Jane shared her expertise.
I think that's important, that the volunteers, it's a serious position and they have to understand those things and appreciate the staff that helps teach them. So thank you.
Yes, and
Thanks, Jane.
you have another agenda item on the agenda today. You're actually appointing an advisory board member, so we're going to see that in action a little bit today.
Mr. Chair, the picture doesn't show everybody.
Is your mic?
The picture doesn't show everybody asleep in the back, so.
It's got the
There's
awake
that sense of
people.
humor.
Yes,
there we go.
exactly. Exactly. So, oops, I've lost my mouse, which might cause a problem, but I see it on the screen. Okay, well, we're going to go through without a mouse and see how we do. So this slide really has a lot of pictures from programs that have they're ongoing programs, and these pictures really represent the individuals who are at the center of this report. So departments that have ongoing volunteer opportunities include the dog shelter, the law library, the sheriff's office, and victim assistance, just as a few examples. And law library assistants, for example, so they're going to be organizing and reshelving materials, keeping all the materials up to date. Sometimes they're doing copy projects or removing out-of-date material, repairing books and binding, etc. Dog services, I'm going to go to my notes. I can't get there because I really want to talk about some of the numbers with dog services. Really and truly, volunteers bring hope to the Marion County Dog Shelter. They really help care for the dogs until they can be reunited with their owners or adopted or placed with an adoption group. So volunteers at the dog shelter spent over 2,800 hours walking, playing, and helping to assess the dogs in our care. They spent hundreds of hours helping with the shelter and the clinic, which can really make a big difference on how those dogs are recovering. Foster volunteers donated nearly 6,500 hours caring for dogs in their home. And as the shelter staff will tell you, having dogs in a foster placement is much less stressful than having them in the kennel. And it is especially critical for those dogs that are nursing, that are medically fragile, or that are just highly stressed. In addition, at the shelter, dogs help with transportation, community outreach, and then special licensing and adoption events. And then search and rescue, there's several pictures here on search and rescue. Search and rescue volunteers work alongside our deputies, and they carry out missions that are searching for individuals who are lost or missing, and that's going to be in an outdoor area, and that can be an urban, a rural, or a wilderness area. They are highly trained, they're highly motivated, and they bring very special skills and equipment and their time to help the sheriff with providing exceptional search and rescue services. Search and rescue volunteers are one of those groups that I kind of talked about. They go through a certified search and rescue academy, certified by the state of Oregon. They are CPR and first aid certified. They complete at least 30 hours of ongoing training every year. They attend regular meetings. They volunteer at all kinds of community events. And then I want to mention there's really sort of two arms of search and rescue. We have the adult search and rescue. There are also opportunities for young people with search and rescue ages 14 to 21. And then quickly, I'll just mention victim assistance. So victim assistance serves thousands of victims, excuse me, of crime every year. So they are supporting victims of child abuse, stalking, sexual assault, elder abuse, domestic violence, and homicide. And our volunteer advocates work side by side with staff to serve those folks, both providing immediate sort of crisis support, as well as then working with them as they go through the court system. So in 2023, we had 25 interns and volunteer advocates with victim assistance, and they made a significant difference in the lives of the folks that are being served, and again, really a significant difference in our county staff in their ability to carry the workload that can come with that division. So then I just thought I'd touch on this other way that folks can come to the county and volunteer. So in addition to being a student or an advisory board or being a volunteer with one of our established ongoing programs, you can also be an event volunteer, and events really are the key to, event volunteers can be the key to a successful event. So we have lots of activities all year long. The county fair is one of the biggest examples. It relies on volunteers to help manage public competitions, they staff information booths, will call booths, etc. Environmental services hosts all kinds of special events throughout the year. They do repair fairs, costume swaps, toy swaps. They've been doing a lot of park restoration events, and they will continue to do those kinds of events through 2024. As I know you are well aware, we've got 6 county parks that are slated for improvements or restoration as part of the Canyon Comeback. And this last year in 2023 at Pack Saddle Park, we had volunteers up planting hundreds of trees, getting ready for the spring. And Pack Saddle Park is one of the kind of primary in and out spots for kayakers and anglers and others that want to use the North Santiam River up there. Okay, so The Justice Court actually uses volunteers in addition to having a pro tem Justice of the Peace. They also have special event volunteers. I actually just became aware of this in the last year. They've got a gal that comes in and helps them decorate for Valentine's Day. Every year they do a really fun celebration with weddings for members of the community. Okay. So really, this is just a snapshot, a glimpse of the different ways county volunteers are stepping up and making a difference. Again, the published report will be available online. And so in closing, I want to express my gratitude to our volunteers. They truly do strengthen our resolve, inspire us, and help us to make sure we're on a great path for the rest of 2024. I also want to acknowledge the many county staff who work with the volunteers on the day-to-day. And that couldn't happen without elected officials and department leadership who support the programs. And then in closing, I really want to thank you, commissioners, because you support the county and the county volunteer programs. So it all matters and it all comes together, and hopefully we're creating a really fun, productive place for folks to come in and volunteer. And with that, that's the end of the presentation. If you have any questions.
No, I thank you, Sherry. Good presentation. I just last night, SWAMAC, Solid Waste Management Advisory Committee, which I'm the liaison on. This is how important DEQ and these new rules that they're putting out for the update recycling plan that's coming out in 2025. The document. The draft was over 100 pages, and we asked our volunteers, I asked the volunteers to go through this. Local governments was mentioned in this document over 100 times. And I don't know what the feedback we got, but asked them to go through it. We sent it out to them to make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners as to how this will impact local governments. That's the kind of thing that we need, because we can't do all that, and staff doesn't do all that, but to have that wide variety of input on something as important as solid waste management, as we know, and to have our volunteers that do that is just really good. So I just want to say that because it happened last night, and we'll be receiving that feedback from staff and what they came up with. But thank you for your presentation, and to all the volunteers that help Marion County be what it is today in all the different departments. Any comments, questions? Good. No. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Consent calendar. I'm not sure whose turn it is. You want?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay. It's only 2 items, I believe. Yeah.
Move to approve the consent calendar under Public Works. Approve amendment number 1 to the purchase order with Carson Oil Company to add $50,000 for a new purchase order total of $150,000 for the purchase of fuel for county vehicles at secondary fueling locations through July 1, 2024. And approve the recommendation to update the classification, adjust the pay grade upward, excuse me, for class codes 273, Deputy Sheriff Trainee, Parole and Probation, and 274, Deputy Sheriff, Parole and Probation.
I second the motion.
You have a motion and a second on the consent calendar. Any further discussion?
We're not upgrading pay grades for parolees.
Good clarification.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, no comment.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, here we go.
Oh, boy.
Our first item under action is under the Board of Commissioners for a board appointment to the Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee, and Carol is here. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Carol Hurd, Addiction Treatment Services Division Director for
Hey,
Health
pull
and
that
Human.
microphone up really close.
Better?
There we go.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Hurd, Division Director with Addiction Treatment Services for Marion County Health and Human Services. And I am here today seeking approval for the appointment of Heather Doherty as a member of the Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee for a term through December 31st of 2027. As you know, the local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee are volunteers that serve as an advisory group to the Marion County Local Mental Health Authority by identifying needs and establishing priorities for alcohol and drug prevention and treatment services that best suit the needs and values of the community. Heather is a resident of Marion County and has worked in the addictions treatment field for nearly 6 years. She's been attending the monthly LADPC meetings as a guest since October and is interested in serving the community as an appointed member. Heather is here today to tell you a little bit about herself and her interest in joining the committee.
Welcome, Heather, and just introduce yourself for the record, and love to hear from you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Heather Doherty. Like she said, I've been in the addiction field for nearly 6 years, and I've lived in Marion County, in Salem specifically, for 26 years. What else would you like to know?
What else would you like to tell us?
What makes you want to volunteer on this particular committee?
Well, I have my experience within the addiction field, as well as lived experience with addiction. So March 27th of this year, I celebrated 12 years clean.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Which was also my youngest daughter's 17th birthday. So her favorite birthday present is what she tells me every year. So
Fantastic.
pretty, I don't want to say unique experience. That tends to be the experience of a lot of us in the field. So I bring that to the table. I worked in Yamhill County for 4 years, where I helped restructure and build their medication-assisted treatment program. So I have that experience, as well as being the chemical dependency lead out there, and problem gambling program lead out there. So I have that experience as well to bring to the table, and also just ideas for the experience that I'm walking through currently, which is building my own treatment program, which is what I'm doing now. My company now is Compass and Circle, and I've been working on that project since February. So I have that experience as well now. So,
Congratulations on building your own company.
thank you.
Yeah. It's always a challenge,
Yes.
but it's worth it. Yeah. A lot of responsibility, but a lot of freedom and a lot of satisfaction when you own your own business. It's really
Yes.
cool. Good.
Thankfully, I have a very supportive husband and also support system. So it's been pretty amazing.
Good. I noticed in your application you had said you organize community events. Can you tell us about maybe one of those that you've been involved with?
Yeah, through the problem gambling program with Yamhill County, we organized community and also outside community, so inviting other problem gambling programs across Oregon to a couple of different events that we put on to just kind of bring everybody within the problem gambling across, like statewide, together as our state began to open up more, to kind of bring back that community feeling piece where we could start building what does our programs look like now? How do we kind of reintegrate bringing people back together within treatment and putting groups back together? What does it look like to integrate telehealth and also in-person group sessions back together and have that, what's the word? Sorry, forgive me. A little nervous speaking, microphone
You're
people.
doing great.
So organizing the large luncheon and meeting the new providers and the new program managers, a lot of changes happened in that 3 to 4 years. So organizing the larger events to bring everybody back together and arranging the food and putting
Yeah.
all of that together.
Was that after COVID?
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Any questions? Good?
Yeah.
All right.
Good, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're joining a team of some pretty talented individuals that are on that. this would be great to add you. I'll take a motion, Commissioner, if you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an order appointing Heather Doherty to the Marion County Local Alcohol and Drug Planning Committee with a term ending December 31st, 2027.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Commissioners.
Thanks, Carol. Next item is under Public Works. Consider approval of an administrative ordinance granting zone change to case number 23-003, LJS Property Management LLC. You don't look like Nicole.
I'm not.
No.
You're not.
We know who you are.
I was down here for the mass gathering, and so she said I could do this.
Good for her.
She let you do it, huh?
She
Is
did.
that
was
called
so nice.
upward
Good
delegation?
opportunity. We're
That
happy
would be
to.
for professional growth.
All right.
This has been something that's been, we've gotten calls about this property for
So
years.
go ahead and introduce yourself,
So-
for the record,
sorry.
even though we know
You're
who you
right.
are.
Brandon's right. I'm Marion County Planning Director. So, we have gotten calls about this property for years because it's been unable to be developed. And someone decided that this route forward, matching the zoning with the comp plan together, would allow that. So staff's kind of excited that this can happen. This matter comes before the Marion County Board on the application of LJS Property Management LLC to change the zone from multifamily residential to commercial retail on a portion of a .89 acre parcel located at 350 Lancaster Drive Southeast. The Marion County Hearings Officer held a duly noticed public hearing on February this year, and in March issued a decision approving the request. The board received the decision and held the application for the mandatory appeal period, and no appeals were received. The ordinance and findings have been prepared, and the ordinance is now before the board for formal adoption. So this is something where, unless there's an appeal, the zoning code provides that the board does not have to hold a hearing on the request because it's a zone change only. It's going to change to match the underlying comp plan designation in this instance. It can also change to different type of zone, same underlying comp plan designation, like residential, commercial, industrial. And the reason for this is because in the urban area, we have a 120-day time limit to make a decision. And that runs really fast once the application's made and we're going into it. So because the zone change only is relatively minor compared to changing the actual comp plan designation, where things can go residential to commercial or commercial to residential, that this doesn't require a hearing before the board. So with that kind of background about this, staff recommends that the ordinance be adopted as provided.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, so I actually do have a couple of questions. I'm looking at Google Earth right now to see exactly where this is. And it looks like the front section of this, probably I assume a separate lot, is a car lot. And the area that you're asking to have adjusted to a commercial space is an open field behind two residential lots.
Correct.
Was a notice provided to both of those residential lots
Yes.
about this, and you didn't receive any feedback?
No one attended the hearing besides the applicant, and we didn't receive any comments.
Do our notices go out in English and Spanish, or
No.
just English?
Just English.
Okay.
And that is one entire property. The front half is zoned commercial, the rear half is zoned multifamily residential.
What's the, sorry, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
go ahead, Commissioner.
What's the plan, Brandon, for this? What are they looking to
You get your
do?
microphone.
Yeah, I can't hardly.
Can't hear you.
What are they looking to do here?
They're looking to expand the storage for the car area, expand the car lot.
So are they gonna asphalt it, you think?
Urban areas have to be paved or concrete pavement or asphalt
Okay.
if they're used for a commercial. And my memory serves, fencing is required if you're going to do a car lot.
Okay.
Brandon, so to the north of this property, those are houses? Those are like, people are living in those houses?
To the north, I don't have an aerial with me, but I know it's zoned commercial, and to the east, there are dwellings.
It appears that there are 3
Houses.
lots. Well, they're multifamily, it appears, based on I'm making an assumption based on the number of vehicles that I can see in this image. One of them looks like it's a multi-unit, single story.
But it's zoned commercial.
Zoned commercial retail.
How can you have houses on a zoned commercial retail? or apartments or whatever this is?
Because the zone changed after the houses were built, is usually how that works.
Huh.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Ready for a motion?
All right, I move to approve an administrative ordinance granting zone change, case number 23003, LJS Property Management, LLC.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thanks, Nicole. All right.
Thank you.
Brandon, we'll see you in a little bit. We have one more item still under Public Works. Consider approval of an amendment to amendment number 7 to the standard professional services contract with Keller and Associates to add $4,162,623 for a new contract total of $7,418,049 to provide preliminary engineering design for the North Santiam Canyon Sewer Project through December 31st, 2026. Chris, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Chris Einmo with Marion County Public Works. I'm here to present on the next amendment to the contract with Keller Associates for the North Santiam Canyon Sewer Project. This total amount of the amendment is $4,162,623. It actually covers quite a wide scope of services for this project, so I've just kind of provided an outline there of the division of services. Up until now, the past 6 amendments we've made to this original contract has been the adapting kind of master planning process and the we call it pre-design services. A lot of the groundwork that's done before we get into real engineering design. This amendment represents the first step into the full design of the treatment facility and the sewer system. So really getting into the nuts and bolts of the engineering design. Couple major points that encompasses is Task 102 is subsurface investigation. I'll talk a little more about that in a moment, but it's really just further evaluations on the proposed site and responding to permitting agency review comments. The pre-design field work, the last amendment encompassed the proposed treatment plant site, which would serve Mill City and Gates. This amendment includes the all of that same ground, kind of on the field data collection for the City of Gates itself and for the pipeline to connect Gates to Mill City. And then about just under $3 million is allocated for that first major step of engineering design, and there are 2 key deliverables under that. And then there's just a small increase in the allowance for services up in the Detroit area for the commercial septic grant program support. The subsurface investigation is really the capstone of the last about 18 months of site evaluations for what we call a rapid infiltration basin, which allows, or which will allow the proposed plant to discharge to the groundwater in lieu of discharging to the river itself. So there's quite a bit of geological modeling that goes on in order to project how those contaminants will be transported through the groundwater. We've made a first submittal to the DEQ and received comments back from them. And one of the requests we got was for a sensitivity analysis. So we essentially take a similar modeling effort to what we did before, but we push that model to the limits to try to see where all the different points of sensitivity are, what factors matter, which factors don't really seem to have an impact. So it's just like a lot of additional modeling efforts in support of our permitting application. They've also asked for ongoing sampling of all the contaminants that are being modeled so that we can have real-time seasonal data to compare that to the model predictions, all of which for the next year will be establishing background levels. And then they've asked us to model additional contaminants. Those are contaminants not typically monitored in groundwater protection programs, but they are relevant to surface water. So they've asked us to include that in our model and just rerun the model with some new contaminants. In particular, we're looking at pH, dissolved solids, BOD. Those are kind of typical engineering parameters for surface water. And as I mentioned, we're going out and doing quite a bit of field data collection for the city of Gates. That aspect of the project involves constructing a new sewer system to serve the entire city. So in order to do that, we pretty much have to survey the right-of-way of the entire city itself. If you see, everywhere you see green on that image is the proposed sewer system. So it pretty much covers all right-of-way within the city. And our survey will collect data from one limit of the right-of-way to the other. That will give us enough information to construct not only the sewer, but in the future, services themselves that run out from the sewer to the edge of the right-of-way so that we can connect the properties at a later time. The diagram that you're looking at now this is a model. It still has to be designed out in engineering, so there may be slight changes to it as the process goes on. But it includes 3 localized lift stations, each serving low points within the city, and that brings it all back to a central pumping station. And then that pumping station will feed into the approximate 3-mile pipeline, taking it from Gates down to Mill City. In addition to the topographic survey, we'll also be doing geotechnical coring and testing. In other words, taking cores, sending them to the lab, and getting information on the soil characteristics so that we can do the underground design. And then obtaining our environmental and cultural clearance and our Phase 1 ESA clearance. Now, getting into the real nuts and bolts of this design is, we call it the preliminary engineering. So it'll produce a fairly large stack of plans and specifications for the water pollution control facility itself. This system, at its peak performance, has a flow rate of 700,000 gallons per day. That's the projected to serve Mill City and Gates at its 20-year population growth. This plant, we have made a lot of decisions about concept level technical parameters, but now we have to go in and start doing the real engineering design, where we're selecting equipment, determining what are the operating parameters, developing really an initial design set for all of these items. So there's going to be a mechanical screening process at the headworks, a process for handling and dewatering the sludge so that it can be transported, the sequencing batch reactor treatment system. That's really the heart of the treatment plant, where biological material is decomposed using microbial processes. Special filters that will reduce the nitrate levels, and an ultraviolet disinfection system, and then the basins which will discharge the treated effluent to the groundwater. And in the gate system, we will be designing out nearly 25,000 feet of gravity sewer and an additional 7,000 feet of force main or pressurized sewer systems that will convey all of the customers' effluent from the city of Gates down to the treatment plant itself. We also have to design and make our equipment selections for the 3 localized lift stations and for the regional pumping station, and then actually design the pipeline itself, which will connect the 2 cities. So we've been in talks with Lynn County about the location of that sewer main. So as that design evolves, the blanks may change slightly, but.
Chris, so the line between Gates and Mill City is going to go on the Lynn County side? I thought it was going to go on the right of way on the Marion County side?
Our initial intent was, and at the time this contract was being developed, that actually describes this, so Amendment 8 may come in and change that alignment. But yes, there's just been enough risk factors identified on that northern alignment that we're tending towards the south alignment in Lynn County. So we've already engaged at a staff level about that. So those last two slides I showed kind of described what the content of the work is. We've actually separated out the work product into two distinct items. One is the PER, so the preliminary engineering report is kind of more of an early work product for permitting purposes. It's to start the conversation with our permitting agencies on the specifics of the design. And so that's kind of what you're seeing in that list is pretty much the suite of work products that go into a plant design. They're just done at an initial stage. Even that initial stage has already been through several value engineering workshops, a great deal of planning in order to identify all the components that need to be there. Won't go through that list in detail, but it's going to be a big set of plans. And then the other work product is the GMP documents, and those are something that we produce specific to CMGC delivery process. And that is essentially the set that is required to enter our negotiation for the guaranteed maximum price and actually obligate all of the construction funds. So we want to make sure it's comprehensive. We also want to make sure we've gone through our detailed value engineering process. So that product will actually have 3 value engineering workshops going into it. Each time we'll be looking at the designs and seeing where there is any potential changes in the design that can realize savings for the project, still give us the product that we want. So that product will actually focus on a lot of those big ticket items and getting them designed out to a level that everybody's clear about exactly what we're building. Specifically, it's enough that we can go in, take that, go break ground, start grading and paving. Tough one. Yard piping, so the actual underground piping on the site that will convey it around, not the treatment plant itself, but just between the components of the plant. And then it will have when we consider our mechanical plans and sections and our process instrumentation, that's enough that we can actually obtain the equipment, have it ready to go. We will be not making any changes to that equipment selection itself beyond that point, but there's still going to be some tweaking, some more detailed design before it's actually installed and brought into operation. Same thing with the electrical. So we're focusing this work product on those long lead items, and those items that we basically have to order now. We have to know exactly what we're getting in order to execute that GMP contract. And so I put a little asterisk there. Our target there is an 8-month process to get us to the ARPA obligation deadline. Just recently we had a note from the National Association of Counties that Treasury has somewhat relaxed its definition of obligation, so it gives us just a little bit of wiggle room there in terms of our obligation date, so that we can do it in the timing that's most advantageous to us. We still have the same delivery dates, so we're still working on a very aggressive schedule. It just creates some flexibility, which is very helpful to the contracting process.
That was a question I wrote down. What was the obligation deadline revision?
So the obligation deadline is still December of 2024, but under the new wording of the Treasury's their frequently asked questions document on it. Yeah, they're essentially considering that when OBDD has received the funds and obligated them to us, that meets that obligation.
OBDD?
Sorry, Business Oregon.
Okay. Oh, well, that might, never mind. Mm-hmm. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fact that it's passing through the state and that we are the subrecipient has, under that new definition, we've already met that obligation.
Okay. Is that the end of your presentation?
That is the end.
So I have a couple of questions, and I just want to know how it's going with the city of Salem and the meetings. Are we keeping them informed, and have you had other discussions? And I know that we were bringing them along. Can you talk a little bit about how that's going?
Sure. Yeah, so discussions with Salem we've been meeting every other week at a staff level to give them an update.
Perfect.
And sharing our intents with the project, and we've shared our facility plan with them, so they've had a chance to look it over, and we've had some good productive discussion on that. Now that they're actually seeing the amount of effort we've put into characterizing the site, modeling the contaminant transport, actually predicting what are going to be those levels at the river, and demonstrating that we meet the same as the background levels, has helped to build up our level of comfort there. So that's going to be an ongoing process where we meet every 2 weeks. We let them see our ongoing design status at this shortly after we submit to DEQ, so that they can see our project design with full transparency.
Great. Good. That's good progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Brian, appreciate that too. And then the Detroit septic system, I was in a joint planning commission meeting last night with the city council, and some comments were made about that. Do we know how many businesses in Detroit have actually applied now for the septic system? Would you be aware of that and how that's going?
Yes, out of the 54 eligible properties, we've received 17 grant applications, and we have our septic consultant engaged on all 17 now. We just sent out a certified mailing asking everybody to submit, and we've followed that up with phone calls and emails using all the contacts we have. We just want to get people in the program now so that we can start working on the design, because the septic permitting, depending on the complexity, could take a while. Some can be faster, but it also helps those owners understand that in order to design this, we want to help them make the decisions that they can, so that the system we design best serves their future plans for their property.
Okay. Comment was made that if they didn't apply by May 1st, they would have to go through a reimbursement process. Is there any technical thing, is there any significance about May 1st in that program?
May 1st is the date that we asked everybody to get their applications in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way, it gives us about 4 months to go through the design and permitting process.
Okay.
But everybody still is going through a reimbursement process. The grant is, regardless of when they apply, that's the process for every grant participant, is that they'll be contracting out for the septic work and reimbursed.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks. I think it might be a good idea for you all to send a letter to the Detroit City Council with the steps that have been taken it's really, while I think you're doing a superb job of trying to chase these business owners, the city also needs to have some ownership in their recovery, and they're doing a good job with what they have access to. But I know that not all of them are on the same page. So if we can formalize a letter and just send it to the city, they can review it on the record or however they choose. And then also try to apply some pressure to their business owners. I know they're anxious to recover downtown, and it's difficult for you all to be successful at your job in this space if there are outliers not actively engaging in what this community septic will look like. And it could be more costly for us overall if they engage much later in the process than early in the process. And frankly, I would like to not waste money because they are delayed on whatever their issues are. Maybe they don't have the money up front, and we need to figure out a way to help them secure those out-of-pocket dollars, to receive a reimbursement in the future. Who knows?
Well, 17 sounds like a positive number, because
Yeah.
a couple of people said, well, there's only been 2, and then Denny last night said, oh no, there's many more in the pipeline. So I think Denny, but I think that's really good, is to have some standard document that they all are on the same page. Because the discussion last night, the board gave a grant through our economic development, and we had the presentation last night from the visionary. It was whatever that's called.
The visioning process.
The visioning process, and they kept talking about short-term vision versus long-term vision. And, you know, one of the big things was the long-term vision was when a sewer system came in. And we know that, of course, I made the comment about me being live when that first toilet flush is up there, but interesting. If they can get those septic systems in, they can move, I think, with more long-term planning earlier. So,
Just to be
Chris,
clear, we do have toilets in Detroit, though. I flushed today.
Yes, they
Just
do.
into a septic tank.
They
not a
do.
sewer system.
Sometimes you step outside and you wonder where it went.
I
but,
don't actually think about that at all.
Yeah, Brian, if you'd like to come up and make comment, please.
Good morning. I'm Brian Nicholas, Marion County Public Works Director. I want to provide a little clarity on how the reimbursement process works on this grant program, mostly because I don't want to, we're constantly fighting and communicating to try to make sure we're resolving any uncertainty or questions that people have, right? So it's kind of a battle against bad information, right?
Yeah.
So. Let's see. So for the commercial septic grant program, just the idiosyncrasies of ARPA, the funding source on this, means that we need to grant the funds to the property owner, and they have to pay the septic installer, because we need them to qualify as a beneficiary, not a subrecipient, because the rules are different for the two. So what we've done in our grant program is we've built it to where we'll have a funding agreement, a development agreement with the property owner, between Marion County and the property owner, outlining the scope of work that's approved. Here's the budget that's approved, all of that. Their installer will get that as well, so they'll understand what budget we're working with once their contract is executed with the property owner. And we've to ease that burden of out-of-pocket expense to the property owner, we've just timed the payments. So when they submit their invoice to us, we pay them within 2 weeks, and that gives them the cash to immediately pay their installer. And we have progress payments built into the agreement as well. So if the installer needs advance payment for purchasing materials, usually there's some sort of advance payment that the installer needs, mostly to purchase the equipment for install. That's built in, so as soon as they order it, we can pay them for that, and the septic installer gets reimbursed. So that's the strategy to make sure.
Is that all outlined in writing, so that and maybe you put that in the letter?
Well, it's better. I'm actually thinking maybe we go to city council, and that way we can not just do a letter, but actually go present at the next city council meeting, so we can answer questions and make sure they get all the information that they need.
I think that's important for you to do, but I also know that we have some lengthy processors on that city council who kind of mull things over. I'd really like them to have something in writing, because what I have seen in this kind of space of bad information is their interpretation of whatever's been heard, and it's in conflict with whatever Commissioner Cameron's saying, or whatever I'm saying, or whatever you all are saying. And maybe there's an FAQ, frankly, that we produce for them to navigate when they're in conversation with the community members and also each other. I think we need to have some accountability in this program, because there is some bad information, and it's not because it's not malicious. It's just there's a lot to this program and a lot to that recovery, and it kind of gets convoluted in the processes. And I would like to try to help them be more successful than.
Yeah, maybe a chart that outlines the commercial properties that are eligible, and here's the 17 that have applied. I mean, just that kind of information, so they see it. And we all see it together. So
right. We can absolutely do that. We've developed that information and presented a lot of it. So we'll put that into a nice fresh package.
And take it up.
This is complex for us who are dealing with it on a weekly basis, and so for folks who don't deal with this every day, it's even more hard to keep track of. Yeah.
They want to rebuild their downtown. They're in a hurry to do it. The community's pressuring them to do something, and the technical details are difficult even for me, who have sat in front of you multiple times listening to your presentations, kind of to deliver. So.
Yep. We have a draft agreement template that we've developed for this program. So when applicants first meet with us, that's one of the first things we orient them on how the process works, and we'll give them a copy. We'll step them through a draft of just the agreement template. And the scope isn't defined, the numbers aren't there, but the boilerplate language is there, including how the payment system works. So what we do is we sit down with them and make sure the property owner really understands that. I think in this packet of information we can provide that template, the agreement template, because all the language is there and we can step through with that with folks. An FAQ is good. We actually have one, but maybe we need to take a second look at it and see if there's new questions that we haven't answered in that FAQ.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Chris, good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we do need to.
Make a motion.
Exactly. Commissioner, if you would like to make that motion.
Okay.
Number 5.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve amendment number 7 to the standard professional services contract with Keller Associates to add $4,162,623 for a new contract total of $7,418,049 to provide preliminary engineering design for the North Santiam Canyon Sewer Project through December 31st, 2026.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? The thing I'm going to say is this is a big lift, and I'm thankful that you are, pointing north or east.
East.
Yeah.
Not north.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Can I just say really quick that you're a huge asset to this team? And we really, really appreciate the time that you're spending on all of these projects, but specifically this one. So thank you for moving here and doing this.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just the relationship too with the city of Salem and bringing that together, that'll
Huge.
That'll be
You have no idea.
so important as we move forward with the permits, so.
Yeah.
Good job. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. It is past 9:30. I should have made that announcement when people walked in that we would start our public hearing as soon as we finished our last action item. So I will open a public hearing to consider mass gathering permit, case number 24-001, White Wind Productions LLC, Brandon. It's not Nicole, it's Brandon.
Nope,
All right.
Brandon this time. Brandon, right, Marion County Planning Director. The applicant is requesting to hold a Renaissance era fair as a large mass gathering. In 2023, the board held a hearing and approved events to be held 2 weekends in July in each of 2023, 24, 25, and 26. However, concerns were raised by persons traveling through the area that traffic related to the event was causing unsafe road conditions. Section 92570 of the Marion County Code allows the planning director to refer a mass gathering permit to the board when there have been citizens' concern raised about past events. Now the applicant has applied for events in 2024, which request replaces the previous request that you had before you, that you approved in 2023. According to information submitted with the applicant, a sound amplification will be used, alcohol will be available, and fireworks will not be shown or used. Marion County Risk commented that the applicant will be required to provide proof of adequate insurance prior to the event. The Silverton Fire District reviewed the applicant's fire protection plan and approved it to be implemented by the applicant. Marion County Environmental Health reviewed the applicant's health, safety, and medical plan and approved it to be implemented by the applicant. The applicant submitted a safety plan, which was reviewed and approved by the Marion County Sheriff's Office. The Oregon Department of Transportation and Public Works Department at Marion County both reviewed the information for the event, the updated information for the plans, and provided suggested conditions of approval. It appears that the applicants have approved plans to proceed with a mass gathering that will address the issues from past year's traffic. While the plans provided by the applicant have changed, the only condition which would change is having monitors on the highway to prevent parking. Staff recommends approval of the request for 2024 only, subject to conditions. The applicant will be able to apply for future years and make any modifications to the traffic plan or other plans as appropriate during those applications. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. So we received some complaints about this last year, and I imagine there's some folks on it for public comment. I just want to read this to you because you said that there's a recommendation of approval. So I'd really like to get some feedback from staff if the Sheriff's Office wants to comment, and then we can hear from everybody else. So there's one of our deputies provided us a timeline with some of the complaints, and I'll just read one of them. It says multiple traffic complaints on Highway 213 at Valley View Road, including illegal U-turns, illegally parked vehicles, vehicles driving into the oncoming lane. Multiple vehicles were cited for illegal parking. The deputy on the scene noted that this area was, quote, incredibly dangerous due to the issues he was observing. So that can't happen this year. So could you talk about why you are comfortable approving it this year and how those issues are going to be addressed?
So Marion County Sheriff and planning staff, as well as traffic staff and ODOT, met with the applicant on numerous occasions over this last winter, and we emphasized how critical these events were last year and how dangerous the potential was when people were parking on the highway and walking across the highway and other things that were occurring. We made it clear to the applicant, I believe, that it was incumbent upon her to change how she does the process this year, and she's contracted with a company to help with the parking. And she's identified a couple of locations to bus people from that location to the event site. I think it's critical that this be successful this year, and she's made some significant changes which she'll describe, and traffic staff can describe how these are going to be implemented and how we think these could be effective. But it's on the applicant to really make this effective, make this work. And if she's not able to, it's possible we come here next year and staff will not be able to recommend, will not approve the plans, and would not be able to recommend approval.
Okay, thank you.
I have several questions that also will potentially involve the sheriff's office, so I'm glad you're both here, thank you. So on the recommendations of approval, conditions of approval, 11A states for ODOT, the applicant shall designate persons to be near Highway 213 to notify event attendees not to park along the highway. What does near mean? I mean, so I drove this route last week just to see it again for myself. I know where the activity is held, but I wanted to actually get a clear visual of it before today. And I appreciate Commissioner Willis bringing up the list of dates and complaints that we received from Sergeant Farron, and we also received other complaints as commissioners from members of the public and neighbors. I have several concerns around the safety, but also the compliance that's not very clear in some of the outlined requirements of approval. So can you just tell me what near means? Do we expect them to stand out and watch the whole time? Or is this a sporadic situation, complaint driven?
No, my understanding is they would be there. The parking attendants or the parking company would be there to direct traffic. I think ODOT meant just not physically on the highway, like physically either stopping traffic or having a presence on it, meaning alongside the highway, so that people aren't, even their staff aren't walking on the highway. If they identify cars on the highway, then the people who are near it would be walking along the shoulder.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And then under H, 11H, I guess. No, I'm sorry, it just says H. Who's considered enforcement? Is this code enforcement? Is it the sheriff's office? Is it public works?
It's code enforcement. And this is actually not a land use action. This is out of the county code. So I got to keep my mind on this. Is not a lot of the planning code that we use doesn't apply.
Okay. And then under H3, under enforcement, if the organizer fails to remove all debris or residue from the event site or adjacent property within 72 hours after termination time of the event, or fails to remove all temporary structures within 3 weeks after the termination of the event, any county code enforcement officer may issue citation. Are we expecting, and is there a scheduled at 72 hours code enforcement's going to go out there and do an inspection? Or is this, again, something that the neighbors have to complain towards? Because I don't like that, if that's the case, the latter.
Mm-hmm. We'll definitely respond to a neighbor complaint, but we can have someone go out too.
Okay. I'm sure it's a bit of a burden on code enforcement, but I think it's important that we honor the expectations of the neighbors. And then, let's see, sorry. There was a complaint last year specifically that we received in writing or in email that stated that a neighboring farm's property was being used as a toilet. I'm very concerned about that. I know that you can't control 5,000 people visually one-on-one, but if I'm a property owner, and I would be pissed. And also, it's a contaminant. It's an issue that drives discomfort for the neighbors to want to be supportive of this activity. I recognize that we don't have a robust enforcement team and or a code enforcement team to be out there. But I just want to put it on the record that we can't be receiving complaints like this, and so the staffing agency that gets put in place to support this event needs to be very diligent about their activity and making sure that the neighboring properties are protected from unfortunate choices of patrons for activities. And then just for the record, I want to state that Mr. Etzel, we did receive your complaint last year. It is a part of this review that you submitted on 8/7/23. And then the information that we received from Sergeant Farron was on 10/26/23, which was a lengthy report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and one last.
Are we done with Brandon?
I actually have one last thing. Under Marion County Code 9.25.120, it says, for parking and traffic control, prior to or on the date of the application, the organizer shall provide the Public Works Director with the parking and traffic control plan acceptable to the Public Works Director. I know that this is a code, but I would like to make a suggestion today that in the future, or this current application, that it also be provided to the Sheriff's Office Enforcement Commander to do a thorough review for traffic safety plans. I did speak to the Public Works Director and he was amenable to this yesterday. So if that plan has already been submitted and not been reviewed by the Sheriff's Office, I would request that it is to do so diligently, and if there's any feedback that the Sheriff's Office has specifically, that the applicant comply for this year specifically and any future years. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have one more.
Yeah, for Brandon.
What about Cascade Highway? So last year we had some complaints about traffic being backed up even on Cascade Highway. Has that been resolved in the traffic plan?
The applicant has a proposal for traffic to address that ODOT and Marion County have both reviewed.
Okay.
We will hear from
We'll hear about that.
I think we're
Okay.
going to hear from the applicant.
ODOT, Marion County Traffic, and the Sheriff's Office work closely with the applicant to coordinate the plans and the proposal to provide feedback. It's on the applicant to make this work.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay? All right, Brandon, we may call you back up at the end and appreciate the details. We will now have public comment for the public hearing. We have Ron Etzel is signed up. Well, let's hear from the, wait a minute, before we do that, let's hear from the proponents, the applicant, and Nancy. Yep.
I think wherever you're comfortable at this point.
Yeah.
Great, have great hair.
Whatever, just make sure you pull the microphone up and introduce yourself for the record. And welcome.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Nice to see you.
This is my zoo. This is my circus. So I do have a few comments that I'd like to make. First of all, last year was a bloody nightmare for me, just saying. I was out on 213 chasing people off the road. They came in so fast that they overwhelmed me. I was amazed, and the stupidity was just amazing. However, I got to appreciate the fact that they really wanted to come to my show. It's a very good show. So, that being said, after COVID, in 2022 was our first year opening again. We were 2 years down. Suddenly we filled our field. I mean, that was never an issue before. And I was a little blown away by that. And so I made some arrangements for 2023. And I got some suggestions on 2022. It worked. Anyway, I thought I had it covered. So I have parking last year at the middle school and high school. And I ran a shuttle. One. Totally inadequate. But I didn't know that. And then it turns out that the company that I hired, which was a school bus system there in Silverton, was just transitioning. Somebody had just bought their company, and they were kind of like, and the shuttle thing didn't work so well. However, this year they're really organized, and I have made a lot of changes. That being said, I also did not know that 213 was so overwhelmed. I really didn't, and I was out there most of the show. I missed the whole show, basically. Everybody else handled everything else. I was out in parking and traffic. I hired some people to do it, but the parking, but they were inadequate. So I have hired for 2024, I have hired an event traffic company, and I've given Marion County Planning their name and contact. He came out, we talked, he's a local in Lake Oswego, Tualatin, whatever. And I showed him around the field, I showed him the high school, the middle school, and I also live on Mount Angel Highway, which is maybe a mile away from the high school. I have a 7-acre field, which was my original parking when I first started this Michigas. Anyway, so I'm opening up that. And he will have an attendant at the high school and middle school and my farm. I also own Fairsite too, what we call Fairsite. I have always kept my parking free because I really wanted to do that. This year I cannot do that. So the plan is that I'm charging $10 a car to come into the field, or you can get free parking by going to the middle school, the high school, and my field on Mount Angel Highway. And that is free, and then I've hired 3 shuttles to be running constantly. I also have changed the system with the shuttles. Last year, they didn't want to come into the field, and like I said, they were kind of messed up in their planning because they were just starting, and yeah, it was kind of a mess. But they have come out, and I have shown them where the shuttle would be, and it would be simply coming in, doing their thing, and turning around going out. They're going to go up over Steelhammer, which goes to the back side of that property. So they wouldn't even be on 213 at all. So that, allows people to get free parking if they choose. And so that's all been contracted for. The guy that I hired, Curtis Webb, to do the parking, he has attendance. The other plan that we have is what we did last year. This whole thing has blown me out of the water, really. What we did last year is we had them come in individually and then send them off to their parking area. This year, like they do on Silverton Road, Atlanta, for the State Fair, you come in one section and then you divide out to 4 lanes, and then you're directed where you need to be and collect the money or whatever you're going to do. So we are going to do that. We are going to divide it. So they come in 1 lane, and then they divide into 4 lanes so that there's constant motion, unlike having to wait out on the road for 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've noticed that there's never really been a backup on Silverton Road for the State Fair, and I kind of adopted that same thing. And the parking guy said, yep, good idea. The other thing we've done is I've created a QR code. It's that little square box weirdy thing. And it will take anybody to the addresses of the high school, middle school, and my field. It will also show them other things, the show schedule and all that garbage. But so that if they come and they decide they don't want to do this or we're full, we can just hand them the QR code and they know where to go. And we're putting this big page of the parking plan on the website, really stating that they cannot stop on Highway 213. That is so bad. I am so sorry. I had no idea it was happening. And the defecation was like, what? Yeah. I just didn't know. And I was out there pretty much the whole time. It was really a nightmare for me. So I do not want to repeat that again. Not only for the show, for the people coming in, for the county, for everybody concerned. I'm not doing this for people to get in trouble, or me. But, I want to keep everybody happy. I want to keep things flowing. The parking attendant, the parking people, the company said his deal is keep the wheels rolling, so that theoretically there's not going to be any stoppage on 213. I've talked over with the county quite a lot, and they think that my plan is fairly sound. Fairly, because, yeah. So I am trying And I know there was a lot of problems for that. The show itself isn't got a problem at all. And the only reason I'm going for the large gathering isn't because I want to have 1 million people there. That's not my goal. My goal is to be the best show, not the biggest, although I think I am the biggest. But, you know, I really have no intentions of going beyond 5,000 people a day, which is pretty much where we were at last year. And we're only doing online ticket sales this year with no refunds, which is something we've never done. So what I've just experienced is what I want to call growing pains. And it has been a challenge. It really has. But I think I have a sound plan. And the other thing we're doing is I've created more parking for the participants to keep them off the field so we can get more patrons on the field. They're at Manager Highway, Highway 213. And I really appreciate you going out and looking at it and reviewing it again. And, you know, you certainly could have contacted me too. I'm really game to show it and talk about it and the whole bit. I know that it's critical for 213 to be flowing. I am very much aware of that. So that is my plan. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. So a neighbor sent us an email about 2 weeks ago with her recommendations and frustrations around your event.
Understandable.
One of the things that she brings up is that your neighbors are having to, at their own cost, post no parking signs along the highways that lead up to the event. Are you doing anything to mitigate the burden on your neighbors with signs?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard about it. But you know what? I'd be happy to take signs out to everybody. I'd be happy to put them up.
Great. I think it'd be good if you did.
I mean, I want to support my neighbors. The other things that we have talked about, my staff and me, is offering the neighbors free tickets. You know,
sure.
Come and enjoy the show. Sorry about this. You know, to try to keep the goodwill going, because it truly is a great show. It really is a lot of fun, very unique. But I do understand their frustrations. Absolutely.
So I just want to point out two things. One, we have another local event here in Marion County that is exceptionally large in the middle of the summer that does offer parking, and also because people don't want to pay for parking, they park along the road and cause traffic issues along very narrow highways. So keep in mind that while you might be going out of your way to produce a QR code and have off-site parking, people are cheap and they don't want to pay for parking, and they also don't want to be burdened by taking a shuttle. They will intend to park on the highway this year, so you'll have to really make a concerted effort to prevent that from happening with your new contractor.
I will.
And I would also like to suggest that you provide electronic highway signs that lead up to the event on both highways. That there's a local provider, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm aware, over on in Brooks.
Yeah, that state no parking on highways.
I can absolutely do that. I think it's a great idea, actually.
I think they run, you know, you can see them days and nights, so forth.
Right.
You
can tell me what to do on that. And
there's people in the back of the room are nodding their heads.
Okay.
I have a couple questions for the sheriff and Public Works when you're done.
Okay.
About this particular issue, I've already written them down.
Great. So I just want you to know that I think this is a great opportunity for individuals around the state to come and participate in your activity. This isn't us trying to shut you down. This is really just us trying to make sure our community is respected and safe.
And I heartily agree.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
I'll go, Ron? Yeah, you're up. Mr. Etzel, just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Ron Etzel, 501 Southwest Lupin Court, Sublimity, 97385.
Welcome.
Last year, first of all, I didn't submit the email to try and shut anything down. I was just really frustrated because we got stuck in that mess. We were on our way to a funeral in Molalla, an 11 o'clock funeral. We had left early enough just in case we got into some complications, and we did make it just in time for the funeral. But on Saturday, July 22nd, as we left Silverton on 213 going north, we seen a lot of signage that festival ahead, congestion. We didn't know what was going on. But once we got probably within a third to a half a mile of Valley View Road, traffic just bunched up and didn't move. It just one car at a time. Just we had people coming up behind us that were passing this long line of cars because they wanted to go through like we did to Molalla or beyond. But everybody that was, almost everybody that was ahead of us was waiting to turn onto Valley View Road to go to the festival. And so we were stuck in limbo, as were everybody else. And it was very unsafe with these cars heading north, pulling over into the southbound lane, passing. It was just incredibly unsafe. Not only that, there was the pedestrians that had parked and were walking on the shoulder. So that's why I wrote the letter. You know, festivals are important. So I'm not trying to shut anybody down. So anyway, one last thing. When we came home from Molalla, hours later, the southbound traffic had cleared out at the intersection. So we didn't have anybody to wait on. But when we went through beyond Valley View Road heading south, the line of cars coming north to go to the festival was still hundreds of yards long. So it hadn't changed. So I thank you very much for allowing me this time.
Nice to
Well,
see you.
appreciate you coming in and your input. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Make it safer for everybody. I'd like to take the chair's prerogative, and I'd like to have maybe Public Works, but I think this is directed at Sheriff. If Sheriff Hunter could come up, or Commander, whichever one.
I drug Jason down here.
Yeah. And it may be a question that Lonnie or Brian would have to help us out with. When Nancy mentioned charging $10 for parking, I just automatically said, well, I'm going to avoid that, just like Commissioner, and I'm going to try to park on the road. 213 is a state highway, correct? Is there a way, and I know we are the road authority for Marion County Road, is there a way that we could post, sometimes you go downtown and it'll say, hey, no parking on this day or from these times. Is there a way that we could post and enforce, like we do like in the North Fork or whatever, to post no parking in these particular areas?
So, Nick Hunter, Sheriff. Thank you, sir. That would be an ODOT issue. So it's a state highway, so we would have to contact ODOT. And as far as any restrictions on that roadway or anything else that could be specifically enforced, that would go through them.
So maybe that's where I need Public Works. Yeah, Lonnie, you want to come up and share a seat?
I know OSP was out last year at some point doing traffic mitigation in the intersection because of the complaint that came forward. Have you spoken to OSP at all this year?
I have not. Sorry, Jason Bernard's enforcement commander with the Sheriff's Office. I have not specifically discussed this fair with them, no.
Okay.
Okay.
They did make some comments, obviously, in the
ODOT
report. ODOT did. Lonnie, can you tell us what that would entail?
For the record, Lonnie Radke, County Engineer. What was the specific question? I'm sorry.
Well, if we could post temporary no parking signs and enforce that with ticketing for people who
On 213.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So we can coordinate with ODOT. Obviously, I can't speak for whether or not they will allow it, but we can really press how important this is and the concerns and all the complaints that we got last year and see if they would allow that. But yes, it is their authority. But we can coordinate it.
You can request that?
I know that last year I got a phone call from somebody about the situation, and OSP was at the intersection doing basically traffic control. So somebody from OSP has an eyes on this particular event and could probably help us with ODOT. I don't know why ODOT would say no. Could we reach out to Zoner and?
Yes, we can certainly contact OSP. What it ends up being, there's no contracted services for this event from the sheriff's office or from the state police. Okay. And so we are, for lack of a better term, reactive. And then that reactive nature depends on staffing and other pieces. So because of the state highway right there, that is OSP's jurisdiction, and OSP will be called. We may get the notification as well. And when you start talking about Valley View and those other roads, those are ours. The highway is OSP. So you do get both of us that end up in hearing these, and then it is just dependent on what that call load looks like for the day, whether we can get out there and start addressing traffic issues. So I do like the proactive nature on the front end.
So my question is, if we could get ODOT to post no parking, our guys patrol tickets up and down the canyon, up and down the freeway. So it is their jurisdiction. However, if it said no parking, our guys could write tickets.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, that's what we need to do. Then the other question I have is, you mentioned there is no contract services. Is that an option for the event to contract with the sheriff's deputy for overtime, to say, I want a deputy to patrol this area from these times to these times?
That would be a more complicated question. We obviously do have some of the summer festivals that we participate in that we've had sort of the long running contracts with. So I'm sure at the highest level it's something that we could consider, whether we have the resources available at that time of year to be able to put something together. That would be further discussions that we would have to likely have, because even St. Paul, which many know that we participate in the St. Paul festivities, that is not just the sheriff's office. We are actually contracting with other agencies, or subcontracting, so to speak, to be able to have the staffing necessary to do that. So, and frankly, for St. Paul, we've been having those meetings for the last almost 8 months, planning for this upcoming year. So at this point, we are in a very short time frame to be able to sort of plan and effectively make a plan to contract any services, even if we were able to provide those.
Okay.
Okay, but we can write tickets.
Yes,
on state highway.
We absolutely, the sheriff's deputies, it doesn't really matter who's in the air. If you are a police officer in the state of Oregon, you have jurisdiction. You just have to make sure that you're citing into the correct court of venue. But other than that, you can certainly write a traffic ticket anywhere in the state of Oregon, or a violation of DMV code.
Okay.
And we can certainly bring this to the attention of our traffic safety team.
And
with those dates.
And the state police, you guys can coordinate.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll reach out to Lieutenant Zoner myself.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Lonnie, would you make that request?
Yes, I will. This might be minor, but I do want to clarify that it's likely not ODOT that would place the signs, but they would allow. Yes. Okay, I just.
Well, I know that, but for the clarification from
yes.
Commissioner Cameron, it would be Marion County placing signs.
Or yes, we will. It likely won't be ODOT. I just want to. But they would give us. They have the authority. They have the jury. Yes, so they would give the permission to the applicant for those signs to be placed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
That's good. Any other questions?
No.
All right, do we need Brandon back up here?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Do we need?
Well, I just, maybe Nancy, huh? I want to put a condition on it. I think we need to, if we can get ODOT to deliberate here just a minute. If we can get ODOT to approve no parking in a certain section, and put a condition that the event would pay for the signage or make sure that with our people, that they would get it signed properly for no parking. And then that way our deputies or our state police could enforce it.
But I do
put some
think
teeth in
you're
it.
still gonna have the issue of backup on the road, right? So even if people can't park on the road, then they're gonna be all waiting to try to get into wherever the parking is, right?
Except for she described a new parking plan on site where there's gonna be a wider receiving space in
Yeah.
order to designate them in.
Yeah.
Yes, I think is the timing of the events, specifically the jousting or whatever is like the most attraction. There'll be some traffic challenges, but hopefully it won't be as extensive in time.
Yeah.
You know, but if we're posting signs, which we did before, and also the marketing is really important. But you're, to the local community.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw Nancy shaking her head yes on that request. So Brandon, if we approve this conditional use permit, right?
Yes. Mass gathering.
Mass gathering permit with a condition of other things that have already been outlined, but another condition that we would ask Public Works to apply, coordinate with ODOT to see if we could post the highway no parking during this event. And if ODOT agrees to that, that the promoter of the event would pay the cost.
Provide signage.
Provide the signage for the no parking specific to the standards that have to happen. I know they have temporary ones that, got to be there, so.
So listening to the board, and I kind of, I'm hearing maybe a condition like, and we can modify this, applicant is responsible to post and enforce no parking along roadways.
Well, only if ODOT upon ODOT's approval. Because I don't think that they can technically, she can technically do that.
Well, I think that's an assumption, right? So it's an assumption under what he said. So we can say it.
I think she could be responsible to, at least to enforce. I think there are options to post and enforce regardless of whether ODOT and the county could agree. And one is placing no parking signs adjacent to properties along the highway. And she has part of the plan to have people out there on the highway telling people don't park there. And then the second way is coordinating with Marion County the placement and ODOT, placement of electronics highway signs indicating congestion ahead and no parking on roadway. So I think she has multiple ways to achieve this.
I just want to make sure that if a state trooper or a deputy gives me a ticket that day, that it's enforceable by our justice of the peace, right? Because if she just goes out and puts no parking signs out there, and it's not an ordinance for the day or whatever, then I just want to make sure that that these people, if they get tickets because they park there, they're going to pay for it.
I guess I have a question. Is parking prohibited along the highway regardless of the situation?
No.
No. Okay.
I could go out there today and park and go pick flowers if I wanted to.
Sheriff, he's walking like, you really want me to talk again?
No, sorry, Nick Hunter again, I came back. So it's getting a bit convoluted. So when we talk about highways, if there is a shoulder or a safe place, then you can do so. If there's no shoulder or safe place, then you're not talking about no parking, you're talking about illegal parking, stopping, or standing, which is actually a crime if you put a vehicle in that place, because then it becomes a hazard. Similar to when we start talking about some of the neighboring properties, restricting the parking in front of those properties as long as you are on a public right-of-way, then you can't necessarily do that. But if we have folks that are parking on a neighboring property or in some way, shape, or form, that's trespass. So now it's not a no parking issue, it's actually a trespass issue where you have that vehicle. So I just want to ensure that we're having all the conversations here, because it's not quite as simple as just the no parking and trying to enforce the no parking. There's multiple things that are at play here.
But the pictures I saw last year, people were parked over the fog line. That is that's illegal. That's not a no
Correct.
parking issue, but it's a, whatever you call it, it's a crime.
Yes,
You're
so
blocking the lane.
now you're actually creating a hazard.
Okay,
So
but,
we're-
but I can write, your guys could write a ticket for that.
Yes, we could. Actually,
Right.
that vehicle that is posing that type of a hazard, we could tow that vehicle for illegal parking, stopping, or standing. But we're sort of starting to get into different areas here as opposed to ODOT making, I'm not sure how this designation comes down. It would be an interesting conversation with ODOT if we just were able to take the entire span and say that the entire span is not available for parking. That would be their authority that we could then act under with our signage if they were good with that.
Okay.
Can I just make one recommendation that in the condition of use, it states no parking, not no event parking? Because what I don't want is for Justice Kid to have to go through some process with some creative person in the future about, well, I was visiting the neighbor, not the event, so I wasn't there for the event. And I've hosted events before, so I know this happens.
No, I was just speaking back there with the commander, and so when we talk about like use of our traffic safety team, I want to be clear. Our traffic safety team is not going to be dedicated to this event, but we can be up there, especially on like the first day, and heavily enforce parking on the highways in the first day, and make it clear where people can and can't park.
Good. All right. So, thank you. I think
I'm good.
You want to, are you good with what the direction you've got?
He said to post and enforce no parking signs adjacent to properties along Highway 213. I think that's a fine condition. I think that encompasses everything we just talked about.
Okay.
Does the board want sub-conditions about the ways to achieve that? To coordinate with ODOT and Marion County to post the reader board sign, to post on adjacent properties, no parking?
Yes.
And to have someone out there monitoring the highway
Do we
to
have to
ensure
say that in the motion?
that's not happening.
We're giving him direction to put that as a condition of use.
Right. Do we have to put that in the motion?
No.
We'll say with the emotions, or with the motions, or with the conditions discussed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. You want to make that motion?
Sure. I move to approve a mass gathering permit, case number 24-001, White Wind Productions LLC, with added conditions of use.
Yep.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Thanks for putting it on.
and to a safe event.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you.
And,
We're supposed to be in a meeting 10 minutes ago.
yeah, well, sometimes
Yeah,
other things
well.
are
I'm
take
just trying
over
to cut your
priority.
discussion short today. y'all.
Okay, if there's no other, I'm going to close, actually, we closed the public hearing and we took the action already, so anything else about their board session? Nope.
Friday, real quick, is the Earth Day activity at Spong's Landing from 3 to, I think, 6 p.m.? It starts at 3 p.m., so go to Spong's
Yeah.
Landing and get some free ice cream.
Earth Day, all right. Celebrate Earth Day every day. Here we go, we will adjourn.